Welcome to Write with Love. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling author, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. Each week, I chat to passionate and inspiring authors about their journey in creative writing. Some are traditionally published, some do it themselves. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone has something interesting to say. We all love love and love what we do. Today's show is brought to you by our amazing fans and supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the show and get some awesome bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author to learn more. Now here's today's show. G'day. I'm Sarah Williams. Thanks for joining me for episode 75 of Write with Love. I'm recording this on Thursday, May 23rd, 2019. As this airs on Monday, my first novel, The Brothers of Brigadier Station, is having a huge promotion and is only 99 cents for the ebook. It will also be in BookBub deal on May 30th, so if you haven't read it, now is a great time to start. Of course, if you'd rather listen to it, then the audiobook version, narrated by Miles Pollard, aka Nick Ryan from McLeod's Daughters, is also available now. I think Audible is still uploading it, but it's definitely up on iTunes and Google and is doing really well. Thank you for all the love and support. It means so much to me. I thought it was good, but it's reassuring to hear that you all agree. I'm prepping workshops and finalising details for my writer's retreat at the end of May. I love mentoring new authors and helping out whenever I can, and I'm looking forward to a weekend of focusing on nothing but writing and words. If you would like to join me on another retreat, the next one will be in the trendy beachside town of Noosa on October 18 to 21, 2019. It's strictly limited to 6 people, and we will be writing, talking craft, and having fun. I will also show you how to make the most out of your advertising budget and boost your sales. All the details are on my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com. Last call for anyone who hasn't already bought their copy of Outback Heroes. It's the latest multi-author box set from Serenade Publishing. This time I've teamed up with fellow Aussies Suzanne Cass, Mel A. Rowe, Liliana Rose, Cheryl Wright and Philippa Neffrey Clark. And this time the digital-only box set is wide, so if you prefer to buy on Apple Books, Google Play, Kobo, Amazon or one of the other awesome platforms, then you can log in now and buy Outback Heroes for only 99 cents. If you love Australian rural romance, then you will love these 6 full-length rural stories. My best-selling novel, The Outback Governess, is included in the set. It's only for sale until May 28th, so go online now and buy it before it's gone. If you are an author who would like to be a sponsor or get a shout out on the show, send an email to sarah@serenadepublishing.com or become a patron at patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author for more information. Right, time for the interview. Today I'm chatting to best-selling author A.M. Hargrove about her naughty and nice books. Enjoy the show and I'll see you next week. G'day and welcome to Write with Love. Today on the show, I'm chatting to A.M. Hargrove. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear all about you. So tell us about yourself and your writing journey so far.
Okay, well, this is kind of a weird story. So I minored in journalism in college, but I didn't actually go that route. My major was in marketing and advertising. And so after I graduated, I became a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company because I found out that advertising and marketing didn't pay very much. It was make some money. So I went to work in the pharmaceutical industry. And at that point in time, women were pretty much in demand for management positions. So I climbed the ladder and ended up with a pretty good position with the corporation I was with. And I was with them for quite a while, more than 20 years, until we were bought out. It was a large firm. We were bought out by a really large firm. And at that point, I lost my job. And my husband, I kept telling when they made the announcement that, and this was back in 2010, they made the announcement and they, told us that we were getting bought out, blah, blah, blah. And I told my husband, I said, I'm gonna lose my job. And he goes, oh, no, you won't. You've won these awards every year and da, 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 da. And I said, I'm gonna lose my job. I just knew I was gonna lose my job. And sure enough, I lost my job. But I walked away with a really good severance package. And so I thought, I'm not going to go back to corporate America because I was just tired of all that. So, I'd always wanted to write. I'd always had it in my blood, and it was there, and it was like burning, and I thought, well, the old saying, God closes the door and opens a window. And so I thought, well, this is my opportunity, so why not give it a go? So I sat down and I wrote this book. And I have a really good friend that's a publicist in the trad world. And she's not in the indie world, doesn't know a single thing about it. And at the time, if you can recall, a lot of people were buying Kindles and didn't have anything to put in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this book, and I said, Kathy, her name's Kathy, I said, I've written my first book, and it's 250,000 words long.
Oh my God.
So long. And she said, oh my God, you have to edit 100,000 words out of that book. Well, how do you edit? I mean, I can edit 10,000 words, but 100,000 words? So I said, well, I can't do that. And so what I did was I cut it in half and re-edited the second book to make it 2 separate books. And I ended the first one on a cliffhanger, and that became my Guardians of Vesteron series. And the first book was survival. The second one was resurrection, and it was young adult. And so I wrote 4 books in that series. But when I wrote the third book, which was Determinate, I introduced this character whose name is Jurek, and I really named him because he was a jerk, and I kind of made a spin off the name. And he was 500 years old, and he almost stole the show. I mean, he was like such a character that he was so compelling and such an alpha. And all my readers that loved the series were like, oh my God, Jurek demands his own book. So I'm like, he can't be young adult because he's 500 years old and he's an alpha and he's basically an ass. So that was my first venture into adult, but these were paranormal sci-fi fantasy books. These were not contemporary.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read the description on the books, but anyway, so I wrote the adult book, and it was called Dark Waltz. And oh my God, I just loved him. And I loved writing adult because that was the first time I ever wrote a sex scene in my life. And it took me like, I'm a pretty fast writer, but I swear it took me all day to write a sex scene. It took me all day long to write one sex scene. And I thought, ooh, this is tricky. And then after that, I finished that book, and I needed to write the ending, which was Death Waltz. But I thought, I'm going to try to write a contemporary romance novel because that seems to be a little easier, because when you write paranormal and sci-fi, it's tricky because you have to put all this stuff in it. And sci-fi demands a little, you can't make as much stuff. It has to have a little bit of reality, not true reality, but it has to make sense, So I wrote this contemporary book called The Edge of Disaster, and I actually made a series out of that. It's the Edge series, and that book did extremely well. And the whole series did really well. And so that basically launched my contemporary career. And I never, after I finished the Guardians of Vesteron and the Dark Waltz and Death Waltz, after that I've stayed in contemporary. But I am going to go and write. I have a complete idea and a complete outline set up for a very intriguing sci-fi paranormal book.
Ooh.
But it's not going to be done until I finish the entire series that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's it. I know what it's like. You've got to finish the series you're working on, and then get to that other one that's calling. And
yep, it's that dirty book. I call it the dirty book bitch in my head.
Nice. So I just want to go back. You were talking about your publicist and the Kindle. So you never went and submitted to traditional publishers?
No, and the reason being is because I'm a very impatient person, and I know if you go that route, it takes forever because you have to submit so many query letters and how many people get rejected. And I wanted to hear the now. And that's when people wanted to fill up their Kindles. That was the very end. It was December of 2011. And my plans were to release Survival, make it free, and then a month later release Resurrection. And my plan worked because people were just filling up their Kindles at the time. They didn't have anything on them. And my plan worked. And the series it sold like crazy. And that's how I garnered my big following. And then even transferring it, Edge of Disaster, I think hit the high 100s, if I'm not mistaken. The high 100s or the low 200s on Amazon. I wrote that book in 7 days. And yeah, I mean, it was like, I just sat down the week of Thanksgiving and wrote that book, sent it off to the editor. It got edited really fast back then. I didn't have any beta readers back then. You know, it was a whole different, I mean, the book is not good. I'll be honest with you. It really needs to be rehashed and re-edited. But even now I get people telling me it's their favorite book. They just love that book. So it probably needs to be really re-edited. I had to go back and re-edit Resurrection and Survival and all those books because they were just horrible. And they really and I really didn't take my time because I don't have it because I'm working on too many other projects. But I published them on Radish. I don't know if you're familiar with what Radish is. It's sort of it's an app that you can read, and it's chapter by chapter sort of thing. You publish your chapters every day or every other day instead of a whole book at a time.
All right, yeah.
And wanted me to publish some stuff on there, so I did. But when I committed to them, I said, "Oh yeah, I've got this young adult series." But when I went and opened it up and read it, I was like, "Oh my God, this is awful." The story and the plot was great, but the writing was horrific, you know, because it was the first thing I'd ever put out, and the editor I used was awful. So I really had to go back, and I really should go back again and slash it up. But I just didn't really have time to work on it, you know.
Yeah. Sure. Excellent. So you were doing rapid release before rapid release was kind of a coin term.
I actually slowed down. I've slowed down. I release 3 to 4 books a year now, whereas before I was probably releasing 6 to 7. And I just think my writing is so much better now because I don't release as many books. And I don't write I don't write short books. Like my books are 90 to 100,000 words. I think the Edge series was probably my shortest series, but I try. Yeah. I swear to God, I try to write a short book, and it's so difficult for me to do that. My plots usually have a little twist in them, and they're just not straight out books. So it's really hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, we should get to the heat level. So judging from the covers, apart from your Guardians of Vestiarum, I'm guessing it's pretty hot.
Yes, some of them are. Some of them are slow burns. From Ashes to Flames, which was the first novel in the West Brothers series. That was a very slow burn. So it really didn't get hot until probably more than halfway in the book. But there were a couple of really steamy scenes. And then after that, it was kind of nothing until the end, maybe.
Yeah.
Because some stuff happened, a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
Some of my books, though, are extremely hot, but it just depends on the book. You know, I feel like you don't write a sex scene just to write a sex scene. You have to write a sex scene when it moves the plot along. Yeah. So I'm just not going to throw one in there just because, you know. I wrote a book called Tragic Desires, and I did a lot of research on migraines because I actually suffer from migraines. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they say is that you have a lot of sex and it takes the migraine away. That happened not to work for me, but I'm just telling you. That is in research. And so my character had a lot of sex because she suffered from severe migraines. You wouldn't believe it. I got so many emails on that from women that said, "This is so true. If I can catch my migraine right at the beginning and have sex, it really helps with the endorphins and everything." And I'm like, well, that didn't work for me. Maybe because I was at work. I don't know.
I was going to say, meanwhile, husbands everywhere are going, come on, you feel a migraine coming up. Love it.
But it was funny. And then I got a couple that said, "This is so ridiculous, sex for migraines." But I wanted to, and I think I did actually put a note somewhere in the acknowledgments that, yes, this is true. You know, this is based on research. And I put a link in there or something. I can't remember. But people were like all over the board with that. It was funny.
I love it.
I have to say, with all my books, everything that I put in there is based on research or personal experience. I wrote a book called The Love of English, and it's a single dad book, and it was really based on mine and my husband's personal experience because when I married him, he was a single dad of 2 kids. And the main character in there is based on my daughter. Oh my God, she was so quirky when she was young. She's 28 now, so she's way past that quirky young age, but she was a hoot. I mean, she would do all these funny things and everything. So the main character is English. That whole character was based on my daughter McIntyre, and she was so funny when she was a little kid. Would do all these funny things. But the custody laws in South Carolina were what I used as a basis, and I looked up the Georgia custody laws because that's where this couple lived. But I got some reviews that said, this is so ridiculous, this wouldn't happen. And I was like, well, you can't comment because, I'm like, yes, it does. It happens. It's true. It does, So anyway, people have to look into where the location is set, whether or not it's true. But I always research, laws and everything like that, just to make sure I'm on base when I write these things.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I write Australian romances, and of course that's different. What happens in Australia is different from what happens in America. And and it is definitely, there are differences between the states and the US. There's differences in the states and Australia as well, but yeah, definitely from one state. I mean, some of the stuff that's been coming out right now, it just wouldn't happen in a northern state or something. So
yeah, well, I mean, and you all have completely different gun laws. I mean, our gun laws are like in the state that I live, you can carry a concealed weapon, whereas you can't do that in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's nuts. All right, let's talk about some of your books. So let's talk about the West Brothers novels. I'm really curious. Tell us about the series and give us a bit of a preview on the first one we should start with.
Okay, so, well, it's really, they're all, everything I write are standalone novels, even if they're in a series, because I don't like cliffies. I really hate cliffhangers. They're just like, if I start a book and I get to the end and I'm like, oh no, I just hate them. So I don't write them. Everything I write is a standalone. But in the West Brothers series, the order is, the first one is from Ashes to Flames. The second one is from Ice to Flames, and the third one is from Smoke to Flames. And they're about three brothers, obviously, the West Brothers. The first one is about Gray, and he's a stuffy cardiologist who finds out, well, the first chapter, which, you can read this on Amazon in the sample, but his wife is leaving on a business trip, and she is going to be gone for the week, and it's right after she goes back to work having their second child. And he goes to work that morning, and during the course of the day, or right after the end of the day, his wife's husband's coworker, his wife's coworker's wife, does that make sense?
Yep.
I know it's kind of complicated, shows up at his office and hands him a packet of information, and he finds out that his wife has been having an affair with her coworker for 2 years. And he is just livid. So he plans out, he's going to change the locks on the doors, empty out the bank account, blah, blah, blah. Well, that night he finds out that his wife never made it to Seattle. She was killed. She was killed in a plane crash, and there were no survivors. So the coworker was killed as well. Well, this affair had been going on for 2 years, so now he questions his son is his son. He doesn't know, and he can't find out. And the guy she was having the affair with died as well. So now he's in anguish over all of this and needs to find a nanny. Well, his mother helps him out for like a year or whatever, 9 months, something like that. I can't exactly remember the time frame now, because you know how it is with books. Sometimes I forget my characters' names. In the meantime, the female character has her own set of problems, which I don't want to get into, but she's kind of tough as nails, but she runs into a tough time, and her parents are friends with his parents. And her parents finally decide that enough's enough. She's got to get out from living in their basement. She's got to pull up the bootstrap. So the two mothers, get together and decide that she's going to be his nanny. Well, she goes there and she has all these names for him. She calls him Dr. Grouch, all this stuff. And she finally, kind of takes the bull by the horns and starts raising his kids, basically, because he's lumping around feeling sorry for himself about the wife and everything. Yeah. So it turns into, this, and it's comedic. It's got everything in it. It's angst, the whole 9 yards. And so I'm not going to tell you anything else. So I just have to leave a little bit hanging for now. So the next book is about his next brother named Hudson, who's the hot and sexy veterinarian in Manhattan. And he's got this big, huge practice that all the women want to bring their puppies to because he's so sexy. Well, this woman leaves Atlanta and moves to Atlanta. Leaves Atlanta, moves to New York to get away from everything because her husband of 20 years has divorced her. And there's a story behind that, but I won't get into it. And so she's coming home from the grocery store one day and ends up dropping a bag, and all of her stuff rolls everywhere. And she looks up to see these large feet standing right there. And so she looks up further and she looks into his sexy blue eyes, and all of a sudden she's breaking into a sweat. Finds out he's her next door neighbor. But that very day, her ex shows up on her doorstep with their big dog that they own together. And he's a English Mastiff that weighs 160 pounds, and his name is Dick. So he gets the nickname Big Dick, and that's part of the humor in the book. And so anyway, that's book number 2. Now book number 3 is completely different because it's about Pearson, the third brother, and he ends up on drugs. He's a drug abuser. The book opens up where he's in this bar and this woman gives him a real bad dose of heroin, and he ends up ODing, and he wakes up in the hospital having to tell his family that he's a heroin addict. And so it's almost a complete antithesis of the other 2 books. Yeah. So his savior is one of the counselors in rehab. So it's and this book, the third book, has a serious twist at the end. So it's almost a romantic suspense. It goes from being an enemies to lovers because he was the divorce attorney in the counselor's divorce. Yeah. And he ended up getting her ex-husband custody of her daughter. Ooh. So she hates him. Yeah. And then at the end, it goes into like this love-hate relationship and then to a romantic suspense. So it's a really interesting story. So then what I'm working on now is the West Sisters novel, because one of the girls that worked with her, the counselor, was his cousin, Sylvie. That's how he ended up at this rehab center. So there's the West Sisters are Sylvie and her 2 sisters. So Sylvie's book comes out June the 12th, and it's called One Indecent Night. And her indecent night happened at Pearson and Rose's wedding. Oh. She got drunk as a skunk and woke up in bed with Pearson's best friend. Wonderful. Their book has a twist in it too.
Yeah. So then you'll finish the West Sisters series.
Yes, the West Sisters will be done. I have One Indecent Night, One Shameless Night, and One Blissful Night. So all those will be coming out hopefully by the end of the year. I'm going to have to really write fast though, because it's already June. And I've only got
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I have a new grandchild, so she's been taking up a lot of my time. That's all down my writing.
That's it. That's awesome. Excellent. So that one comes out in June. So that will, if it hasn't already come out by the time this podcast is on, it'll be very, very soon. So that's fantastic. So, where can we find you online and keep up with all of your new releases and where and when they are?
My website, amhargrove.com, and all my links for Facebook, Instagram, BookBub, everything is on there. And the books will be on there. All my books are on there, links to Amazon. I'm mostly on Kindle Unlimited.
Yep. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate that.
Well, as you can tell, I like to talk.
I love when people talk.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jump onto my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com, and join my mailing list to receive a free preview of my books and lots of other inspiration. If you like the show and want it to continue, you can become a sponsor for just a couple of dollars a month. Go to patreon.com/sarahwilliamsauthor. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a review of the podcast. I'll be back next week with another loved up episode. Bye!